Welcome to G3 TV, where African stories come to life. They called him Obinna the Sleepless, and in every corner of the kingdom people whispered that he had been touched by the gods. He was born on a night so still the dogs refused to bark, and the old midwife, her hands as wrinkled as the folds of her wrapper, claimed she saw a faint light around the child's head. He did not cry like other babies, only stared wide-eyed at the world as though he had known it forever. His mother, a woman of fair spirit and quiet dignity, cradled him against her chest, already sensing he was set apart. Obinna was raised in a palace whose walls held 1,000 secrets, a palace that stood behind red earth walls and watchful guards who paced night and day. His father, King Jaideofor, ruled a kingdom known for its sprawling farmlands and clever traders, a place where the sound of metal on metal rang from blacksmiths' forges and the pounding of fufu filled the courtyards at dusk. From the earliest days, Obinna refused to close his eyes to sleep. Nurses tried every charm, every lullaby, but he would not rest. His mother rocked him for hours, tears slipping down her cheeks, while the child watched the darkness as if it spoke to him. By the time he could walk, his sleeplessness was legend. He played all day with other children, laughing and running until their energy flagged, but even when night fell, he remained bright-eyed. There were no dark circles under his eyes, no yawns. It was as if his body needed no rest, as if his spirit alone carried him forward. Some called him cursed. Others called him chosen. His mother decided he was simply Obinna, a gift she would protect. As he grew older, Obinna became curious about everything. He watched the palace guards practicing their spear drills under the moon, followed the healers as they mixed herbs and powders, memorized the complex patterns the market women wove into their cloth. The night, to him, was another world, filled with its own language and rhythms, and he was its only true prince. He would wander the silent courtyards while the rest of the kingdom slept, his eyes drinking in every secret. When he turned 15, his father called him into the throne room. King Jaideofor was a proud man with a voice that boomed like distant drums. His robes were made of the richest woven cloth, dyed deep indigo, embroidered with gold. He studied his son for a long moment before speaking. "You do not sleep, my son," he said, "yet you do not weaken. The gods have marked you. I cannot pretend to understand it, but I will not fear it either. This kingdom will one day be yours, Obinna. Use your sleeplessness to guard it." And so Obinna became the eyes of the night. He walked the palace grounds each evening, making note of who came and went. When the guards dozed, he roused them with a steady voice. When strange travelers arrived late, he was the one who stood to greet them. Over time, even the soldiers grew to trust him, a boyton young man who never rested, who never left their walls unguarded. Yet in that quiet power, Obinna was lonely. By day he was a prince, admired for his quick mind and fair judgment. By night he was an island, awake in a sleeping world. Sometimes he stood by his mother's chamber, listening to her peaceful breathing, wishing he could share her dreams. But he had no dreams, only 1,000 waking thoughts that chased each other until dawn. His tutors worried. They tried to teach him the art of quieting the mind, to help him find at least a moment of sleep, but nothing worked. Instead, Obinna devoured knowledge. He learned strategy from old warriors, law from the palace scribes, trade from the market elders. If he could not sleep, then he would make every hour of wakefulness count. And so he grew, and so the legend of the sleepless prince deepened, until the bards began to sing of him even beyond his father's borders. The kingdom was prosperous in those days, its people strong, its enemies cautious. Yet always in the dark corners, rumors stirred, that a prince who could not sleep was unnatural, that someday a price would be paid. Obinna heard the whispers but turned away from them. He had no time for fear. One night, during a rare festival that honored the ancestors, Obinna stood near the sacred fire as dancers whirled past, their voices rising like a river of praise. He felt a cold wind against his neck and turned to see a figure cloaked in white, eyes black as coals, standing just beyond the circle of light. "You do not sleep," the figure said softly, "and so you will see things meant for no mortal eyes." Obinna felt his heart tighten. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure did not answer, only raised a thin hand and pointed toward the village beyond the palace walls. Then it vanished, leaving only the faintest chill in the air. Obinna was shaken. For the first time, he wondered if the night had been waiting for him all along, if he had been spared sleep not by blessing but by fate. And what did fate expect of him? That night he walked the palace walls until dawn, eyes scanning every distant roof. The world seemed changed, as if shadows had grown teeth, and he knew deep down that something was coming, something only he could face. The years rolled forward like a drumbeat, steady and unrelenting. King Jadiofo grew older, the burden of rule heavy on his once proud shoulders. Obinna stepped into more duties, attending the council of elders, settling land disputes, overseeing the collection of tribute. Though barely 20, he carried himself with the confidence of a man twice his age. The kingdom flourished, yet Obinna could not shake the memory of that cloaked figure. Sometimes, standing alone under the stars, he imagined those black coal eyes watching him still. One night, while walking the rampart of the palace, he saw a flicker of fire in the distance. Squinting, he made out movement, a band of raiders creeping through the farmland, hoping to steal goats and chickens while the villagers slept. Without hesitation, Obinna sounded the alarm, his voice echoing through the night like a horn blast. The guards scrambled awake, racing toward the fields. Thanks to Obinna, they arrived in time, driving the thieves away before any harm was done. Word spread of how the prince had saved the livestock, and with it the villagers' livelihood. Gratitude poured over him, but Obinna took no pleasure in the praise. Something darker nagged at him. The raids were growing more frequent, and bolder. Whoever led them knew the kingdom well, knew when its defenders were weakest. Obinna's mind turned like a grinding stone, worrying each possibility until it felt raw. He began to patrol even further afield, moving beyond the palace walls into the outlying villages. People woke in the night to find their sleepless prince at their door, checking that all was well. Some found this reassuring, others unsettling. But no one could deny that the kingdom was safer under his watch. In those journeys he met a young woman named Nena, whose eyes were the color of polished onyx and whose laugh rang like music. She was the daughter of a respected potter, known for her cleverness and her quick tongue. Unlike others, she was not frightened of Obinna's sleeplessness. When he told her, almost ashamed, that he had never dreamed, she took his hand and said softly, "Then we would dream while awake." He loved her instantly, with a power that startled him. They spent hours talking under the moon, Nena spinning stories and Obinna drinking them in as though they were water in the desert. For the first time he felt a kind of rest, not of body, but of spirit. One night as they sat together near the old stone shrine, Nena looked into his eyes and asked, "Why do you fear the darkness, Obinna?" He hesitated, then told her about the cloaked figure, the words that had haunted him ever since. "You were born to see," Nena said, after a thoughtful pause. "But seeing does not mean you must bear every burden alone. When the darkness comes, share it with me." Her words carved a warm place in his heart. Together they began to prepare for what might be coming, gathering allies, strengthening the watch, training villagers to protect themselves. Obinna found a strange hope in this, that perhaps he had been sleepless not to suffer, but to stand ready when others could not. The attacks grew worse. Small fires turned to great blazes, bands of raiders grew into organized war parties, and rumors said a warlord beyond the river was testing the kingdom's defenses. Obinna stood firm. Each night, while the kingdom slept, he studied maps, drilled new soldiers, planned where to place supplies. His mind, freed from the need for dreams, worked ceaselessly. He was a strategist with no rival, because he could devote every hour of every night to his people's defense. One evening, news came that the warlord himself had crossed the border with a vast host of warriors. Fear swept through the villages like a sickness. People packed their children and tried to flee, but there was nowhere safe beyond their own walls. Obinna gathered the elders, the captains of the guard, and spoke with a voice so calm it stilled every trembling hand. "We will not abandon our land," he said. "I will not close my eyes, not even for a moment, until the threat is ended." And so he rode out, Nena beside him, leading a defense built from every sleepless night, every careful plan, every lesson learned from years of watching the world when no one else could. The kingdom had forged him in strange fires, and now he would see if they had made him strong enough. The first battle came at dawn. Obinna had arranged traps along the river's bend, where the land dipped low. When the warlord's warriors charged, their feet sank in hidden ditches. Arrows rained down from archers Obinna had hidden in the ridges above. Confusion spread through the enemy ranks, buying the kingdom precious time. That day, and the days that followed, Obinna seemed to stand everywhere at once, rallying defenders, tending the wounded, urging tired soldiers back to their feet. The people called him a spirit, a force that never faltered. They did not know that he was only a man who had simply never closed his eyes. The fighting raged for weeks, a brutal test of the kingdom's heart. Again and again the warlord sent waves of warriors, hoping to break the defenders through sheer exhaustion. But Obinna would not let them rest, would not allow the kingdom to falter. Each night he reviewed the wounded, counted weapons, encouraged the frightened. Each morning he stood with sword in hand, a banner tied at his waist, leading by example. Nena fought too, fearless and bright, her presence a fire that lifted every spirit. Together they became legend. In the whispers of night, villagers spoke of the king who would never sleep, who would stand between them and the abyss no matter the cost. At last the warlord himself came to the front line, furious that such a small kingdom had resisted him so long. His armor was polished black, his voice as cruel as a sharpened knife. He called out to Obinna, demanding a single combat to end the bloodshed. Obinna stepped forward, tall and steady. Though he had not slept a night in his entire life, he stood stronger than any man present. The two met in the middle of the field, the sun low on the horizon, the air heavy with the weight of all that had been lost. The duel was savage. Swords clashed, sparks flying, dust rising around them until it seemed they fought in a world of their own. But Obinna's mind was clear, unclouded by fatigue, every strike a lesson remembered from the nights he had watched the palace guards. Slowly, patiently, he wore the warlord down, until at last he struck a blow that sent the enemy's blade flying. The warlord fell to his knees, defeated. Obinna let him live, demanding instead that he retreat beyond the river and never threaten their kingdom again. The warlord, gasping, agreed, cowed by a man who never seemed to tire. Peace returned, a peace paid for in sweat and blood, but peace all the same. Obinna was crowned king soon after, his father too frail to rule any longer. The people cheered him, calling him Obinna the Sleepless King. Songs were made about his courage, stories carried far beyond their lands. But in quiet moments, Obinna still felt alone. Even with Nena by his side, even with children of their own laughing in the palace halls, he felt the night pressing against him like a question. He wondered if he would ever know the comfort of dreams, if he would ever close his eyes and sink into darkness without fear. One evening, many years after the war, he stood on the palace ramparts, older but still unbowed. Nena came to him, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes kind. She took his hand and leaned against his shoulder. "Tell me, my king," she asked softly, "if you could sleep tonight, would you?" Obinna looked over his kingdom, the lamps flickering in distant compounds, the peaceful hush that his sleeplessness had guarded all these years. Then he turned to her, smiled, and shook his head. "I was born to see," he said, "and so I will keep saying." And he kept his vigil, a sentinel who needed no rest, who feared no night, whose mind was a flame that would never go out. They would tell his legend for generations, how Obina the sleepless king kept their kingdom safe, how he carried every burden, how he faced the darkness with open eyes, and never flinched.